What is going on, everybody? I am very excited to be here finally making videos on YouTube about my favorite horror movies. That's what this channel is going to be all about. Can't wait to make more content in the future, but today I am here to talk to you guys about Skinamarink. Now, I know I'm a little bit late to the party on this one. It came out about a month ago. I saw it about 2.5 weeks ago for the first time, and I am not 100% sure what to make of this movie, man. It's very divisive. It's very different from a lot of traditional horror movies coming out right now. So, of course, there's going to be a big disparage between people who like it and people who hate it. I personally am very in the middle, leaning towards the love side. I will say that right now. I think the director has a very interesting story behind the film. The production is very interesting. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff. But real quick, if you guys are excited to see more content from me in the future, I will be doing reviews, some more video essay formatted videos. I'm going to have a series on disturbing movies out very soon, which I am looking forward to and also dreading going over. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please please subscribe, and stay tuned for more content soon. The main goal of this channel is to create a community where we can all talk about our interests such as horror, such as metal, all of that good stuff that you can see behind me right here. As I said, if any of that sounds interesting to you, please stay tuned for more content. But for right now, let's talk about Skinamarink. So, the two main sides that I flipped back and forth while watching this movie, it did legitimately live up to the hype of how scary it was for me personally. Not everybody is gonna feel like that. It heavily depends on your experience as a person and what does scare you in these movies. With all of that being said, it also kind of bored me for maybe around half of the film. On Instagram, I posted on my story, "I've never been so bored while a movie had me shitting bricks," or something like that. But it is true. It's the weirdest mix of a film that I have ever seen. So in this video, I'm going to try to give you an argument as to why I think Skinamarink lives up to the hype and is pretty damn scary, but also a bit overrated and boring. So with that being said, let's talk about why Skinamarink is scary. So watching this movie in a theater with a crowd of about 15-20 other people, it was effective and did affect me as it was supposed to. It did what it set out to do. It is a very non-traditional horror film that doesn't go for traditional horror scares. The movie relies more on audio and visual confusion to scare the shit out of you, and that kind of worked for me. On the visual side, we got the grainy VHS damn near Super 8 quality to it, where you can kind of make out what's going on, but everything is so dark and grainy and hard to see that the movie has you constantly questioning, oh, is that something at the end of that hallway? Is that something in the corner? Did something just move there and I didn't fully make it out? That's exactly what it's trying to do. Same thing with the audio. You have this constant feed of white noise, static, VHS type audio that doesn't let up for 1 second throughout the 100-minute runtime of this film. Now, admittedly, a lot of the shots in this film are just a random collection of angles in this house. It doesn't really have a pattern or flow to it. It is literally just a connection of shots strung together that tell somewhat of a story. Now, apart from the audio and visual confusion of the film, I feel like the stuff that really scares you is gonna come from you as a person. Let me explain. As I mentioned before, I feel like the fear you will feel during this film, what a fucking tongue twister. The amount of fear you will feel while watching this really is gonna come from yourself. It kind of goes for that choose your fear level style of filmmaking, similar to what they did in Texas Chainsaw. You might hear people say that. It doesn't necessarily show you stuff that is freaky. It's just weirdness, and then you're left to fill in the pieces of what is in this house or what could possibly be in this house. It has some supernatural edge to it where you hear a voice talking to these kids. You see people at one point in the most traditional horror movie scene, the bedroom scene. But yeah, apart from just a couple of those more traditional scares, everything is left to your imagination, which freaks me out personally. Another thing, there are jump scares in this film, but the amount of tension and suspense that leads into them had me completely exhausted by the end. I mean, you get the traditional jump scare where somebody will be walking around a dark room or something, just as an example. All of the sound of the film will fade, and all you can hear is the person walking around until the inevitable jump scare happens. Normally for most films, this would be about 30 seconds to a minute, or if it's really sudden, that can startle you as well. But this movie spends minutes upon minutes of building that tension. I'm talking like 10 minutes of pure hell before you get the jump scare payoff. And for people that can't handle suspense, that will destroy you. I'm sorry. But yeah, another thing that freaked me out about this film is the setting of the house. I mean, you have these two kids in a house by themselves. They wake up in the middle of the night. Their parents gone. The doors and windows in the house start to disappear. That is a literal nightmare on screen right in front of you. I mean, I feel like as a kid, I've had that nightmare before. And that's what the film really plays into. It plays into that childlike innocence and fear that we all have repressed down in our heads somewhere. I mean, literally, if you took a film camera into my nightmares as a kid, this is exactly what you would see. It is a literal nightmare put to film, and I think that is a very, very interesting idea. As I said, the director of this film has a pretty interesting story. He used to be a YouTuber and would have people comment their nightmares as inspiration for his horror shorts. And there is a shorter version of this film on YouTube. I believe it's called Heck, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, it's about 30 minutes long, and it's kind of just this same concept in a shorter format with not as big of a budget. And that's saying something because the budget of Skinamarink is ridiculously low. And overall, I just think that's a cool story. A person from YouTube gets the funding they need to release a film theatrically, and a lot of people end up loving it. I think that's great. You know, it's inspiring for a lot of people, for a lot of upcoming filmmakers, and seeing that success, much like Damien Leone from Terrifier 2. And side note, Terrifier is a series we will be talking about soon. But yeah, as I said before, I just think that's an inspiring story, and this guy is gonna come away from Skinamarink with a career, and I think that's awesome. Yeah, and my last point I mentioned briefly in the section right before this, but the house setting. Your house is supposed to be where you feel comfortable, where you feel most secure. They have cartoons on in the background, playing into that childlike innocence again. Cartoons are safe, your house is safe, toys are safe. This film takes all of those concepts, toys, cartoons, your own home, flips it on its head, and they become literal, like, entities almost. Like demonic shit is going down here, especially the phone with the face. You know what I'm talking about. And I would parallel this most closely to A Nightmare on Elm Street. The only difference is something happens in that film. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, you have the sense of being in bed, going to sleep where you're supposed to feel most comfortable and secure. You fall asleep, what happens? Freddy Krueger shows up and fucks your day up. I get that same vibe from this movie. I don't think it's nearly as good as Nightmare on Elm Street, but it is a very similar vibe and premise. The real reason this film genuinely unnerved and freaked me the fuck out was that childlike innocence and nightmare quality to the film. I mean, as I said before, I feel like I've lived this movie when I was a kid. It feels like watching a memory deeply repressed unlock in your head, and as soon as those credits roll after that long as fuck outro that was creepy as hell, I was just disturbed and confused. I literally turned around to my theater and got everybody's reaction. Everybody was just as confused as I was, and I literally said, "Are you guys confused too?" Everybody was like, "Yep, yeah, man." That was a cool experience. But taking all of that, why is this film a little bit boring and a little bit overrated after I just made it sound like the scariest film of the year? My main point on this is, yeah, there's creepy and eerie imagery, but that's quite literally all the film really has to offer, you know? I mean, there's only so many times I can look at a dark hallway or the corner of a room and then the door opens and be like, oh yeah, that's effective. After the 100th time of looking down there, I'm kind of just like, all right, let's speed this up. Let's make something happen. And I think there is a really good 80-minute version of this film. And again, there is a short film with this same premise that I highly recommend checking out. But as far as theatrical releases go, 100 minutes of this is just a little bit too much for me. Like, I understand the thought behind it. I understand why it's that long. It just doesn't merit that for me. There is some dialogue back and forth between the kids. There is more dialogue than I thought there would be, but it's maybe like an 80-20 drop off. Maybe a little bit less than that. And beyond the runtime, there's just not much to invest yourself in here. There's no character arcs. There's no characterization beyond these two kids are alone and scared. I really view this film as almost a type of endurance test. Like, how long can you go before you start feeling a little bit crazy, whether that's being scared or just being bored out of your mind. There's really no in between. Although I am in between. Fuck. And it's funny, either you watch this film the intended way, you're scared as fuck, or it just doesn't work for you and you're bored out of your mind. One is intended, but either way, you're miserable. Also, to have a 100-minute film that just continuously raises questions, to not have any of them answered by the time the credits roll, it bugs me a little bit. I understand that it's not intended. It's intended to be ambiguous. I can respect that, but I just need a little something to invest myself in and attach myself to. But yeah, those are my two arguments. So getting into my final thoughts on the film, I really enjoyed it. I think this was something unique and in a lot of ways a breath of fresh air. I don't want to see a ton of movies like this though. This is a good novelty experience to have. It definitely, for me personally, worked as intended and disturbed me and freaked me out at a lot of points. with that being said, if I see a ton of movies try to adapt to this style, this artistic style, it's gonna lose its footing real quick. With that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing what this director does in the future. As I said, he's definitely gonna have a career based off of the success of this movie, and I'm all for it. I want to see what this guy has to do next, and I'm hoping it's gonna be great. As far as recommendations go, if you want to see something weird and new-ish, I would recommend checking this out. It is now on Shudder as of February 3rd, I believe, so go check it out there. With that being said, this is the end of my first ever YouTube video, and this whole thing was very fun to make. I love the whole process. I can't wait to upload more videos in the future, and I hope you guys are excited to see some of the stuff that I have to offer. Social media links, Instagram, TikTok are in the description as well as on my channel, and I'm gonna have some very exciting stuff coming up very soon. So Skinamarink, recommend if you want to see something new, if you're a big horror fan. If it sounds like the type of movie you would not like and it's just going to be tedious for you to get through, I would just recommend skipping it. The divisiveness of this film makes sense, and I get it. But for me personally, it worked pretty well. But yeah, as I said, more content in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed this. All my links are down in the description. I will see you guys very soon in the next video. Thanks for watching.